The Appalachian Mountains have always carried a reputation for being old, older than the bones of the earth, older than the wind that whispers through their endless pines, older, some say, than humanity itself. But to me, they were just home. I grew up hearing the stories, the warnings, the whispered beliefs people passed down like family recipes. Don't whistle after dark, don't follow lights between the trees, and don't ever answer when the mountains call your name. I never believed any of it, until the night the mountains finally called mine. It started when I returned to my late grandmother's cabin deep in the Appalachian woods. She had passed away that winter, leaving behind a place that smelled of cedar, old books, and pine sap. The locals told me she died peacefully, but something inside me always doubted that. She used to say the mountains owed her something. I never understood what she meant. The first night back, the forest felt too quiet, the kind of silence that is not empty but watchful. The cabin creaked as if adjusting to my presence again, and I tried to ignore the uneasy feeling crawling under my skin. At around midnight, the wind shifted, and from far beyond the tree line I heard something strange, like a woman humming, slow and deep, almost mournful. I tried to convince myself it was the wind scraping through the pines, but the sound had rhythm, tone, and tension. Then it stopped abruptly, replaced by the sudden cracking of branches, as though something heavy was moving swiftly just out of sight. I locked the door and told myself it was just a deer. The next morning, I found footprints outside the cabin. Not boot prints. Not animal prints. Bare footprints, long, narrow, toes pressing deep into the mud as if whoever, or whatever, made them carried itself in a strange, forward-leaning manner. I tried to shake it off. I busied myself with cleaning the cabin, fixing warped floorboards, clearing out her old belongings. By late afternoon, I found a box filled with her handwritten journals. Inside the first one was a single sentence that made my heart slam against my ribs. If the pines start watching you, don't look back. That night, I stayed awake longer, flicking through her journals. Page after page described noises, shadows, and strange figures she saw among the pines at dusk. She called them the Watchers. According to her writing, these Watchers had been part of the mountains for centuries. Mountain spirits, remnants of something ancient and broken, creatures that moved silently between trees and fed off the loneliness of isolated places. I was halfway through her fifth journal when the humming returned. Louder. Closer. The floorboards vibrated faintly beneath my feet. The humming was joined by whispers, hundreds of them, overlapping, blending into a chilling chorus. My heart hammered as the cabin windows began to tremble in their frames. I turned off the lamp. The whispers stopped instantly. The silence that followed was oppressive, suffocating, as though the entire forest was holding its breath. Then 3 knocks. Slow. Heavy. Right on the front door. I froze. Whatever stood on the other side waited, breathing softly, like an animal scenting something I wanted. I didn't move. Neither did it. After 5 minutes that felt like hours, the presence stepped off the porch. I heard wet footsteps dragging across the leaves, moving around the cabin. It circled once, twice, then faded into the trees. When dawn finally came, I stumbled outside and found long claw marks for parallel grooves, running across the wooden siding from one corner to the next, like something had dragged its hand along the entire length of the cabin. I packed my things, ready to leave, but the forest had other plans. As I walked down the trail toward my truck, the path no longer looked familiar. Trees I had known since childhood stood twisted, leaning inward, forming narrowing passageways of branches like ribs of some massive beast. The air grew thick, and the humming returned, weaving through the trees like an invisible thread tugging at my mind. Then I heard it, my grandmother's voice. Soft. Urgent. Calling my name. Aisha. I froze. She sounded close, but wrong, like a strained recording replayed on broken speakers. Aisha, come here. My legs moved involuntarily. The humming deepened. The shadows beneath the pines rippled as though something crawled just beneath them. I forced myself to stop, gripping a tree trunk so tightly bark dug into my palm. The voice came again, sharper this time. Aisha. The woods erupted. Every tree groaned. Every branch shook violently. From the corner of my eye, something tall and thin stepped between the trees, an elongated silhouette, its limbs impossibly long, its head bending unnaturally toward me. Its fingers curled around a pine trunk, digging into it like wet clay. I ran. The forest warped around me, paths twisting, the world tilting as though the mountains themselves were moving. The creature's footsteps were silent, but its presence pressed against my back like breath on my neck. "Don't look back," I whispered, remembering my grandmother's words. But curiosity clawed at me. The need to confirm the horror growing behind me became overwhelming. Finally, I glanced over my shoulder. I wish I hadn't. The thing was only a few feet away. Skin pale and stretched tight like thin bark, face featureless except for a gaping vertical slit where a mouth should be. Open and humming. The sound wasn't coming from the forest. It was coming from it. I sprinted until my lungs burned. Somehow, by luck or miracle, I burst out onto the gravel road where my truck was parked. The humming stopped instantly, cut off like a severed wire. The forest fell silent. I didn't wait. I jumped inside, slammed the door, and sped down the mountain, not stopping until the pines were distant shapes in the rearview mirror. I never went back. Weeks later, I received a letter from one of my grandmother's old neighbors. Inside was a single piece of paper torn from her journal. It read, "They choose someone every generation, someone who hears them, someone the mountains call by name." My blood ran cold, because at night, even now, miles away from those cursed mountains, when the world goes quiet and the wind shifts, I still hear it. That same humming, that same whisper, calling my name from far beneath the pines. And every night it gets a little closer,